Hey, it worked. Zoom lets co-hosts initiate recordings. All right. Welcome to our weekly group meeting for the container security group. We've got a full agenda. First one's from Alexander. Lindsay, do you mind voicing that one over for us?
I just had to find my unmute. Sorry about that. So Alexander is sharing a demo about the new ability to create, edit, or delete scan execution policies on the security and compliance policies page. So this is now available for your viewing and hopefully testing and staging. I had a chat with him earlier today and I asked if there's anything we could do to help. And, he's here now. There he is. Hi. Do you want to speak for yourself?
Sure. Why don't you finish up where you were at, and then I'll add comments.
Just going to repeat our conversation earlier, Alexander, about the request out to the group to help with some of the testing around this, the policy changes that are hopefully going live for customers with 14.3. So there's some feature flag, updates that would need to be made, believe, unless that's at the project level. Alexander, I'll let you get into any more details.
Yeah. Any testing that you could do would be greatly appreciated. Tiago and I were late to this call just because we were testing and found an interesting edge case where I'll describe later, but finding fun little things like that is going to be easier with more people looking at it. So I appreciate your help.
So the test project was linked to a policy management project that was Alexander's own project. I didn't have permissions to it. So I don't know, we can probably just tweak the error messages to be a bit clear to say, hey, you need permissions to this project here. Because that was a bit of work as well. I could edit it and I could see the name of the thing, but then I was searching for the project and I couldn't find it anywhere. So we'll write it down at some point. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, we might need to, either we could tweak, I think the easiest thing is to tweak the error message. In the long term, we should probably, just like how we're passing up the permissions for whether a user can even edit the policy project. And then we gray out the create merge request button if they don't have access to that. We also need to pass up the permissions, maybe, or whether you have access to the policy project itself.
Yeah, there's a validation service that checks a ton of different steps when trying to pull up the policy, but I don't think it checks permissions, and that might have been something that I just forgot about. So I'll take a look at it tomorrow and try testing it and see if I can break it.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Let me know if you need help. I think I know exactly how to break it.
Oh yeah, Tiago, if you want to create an issue outlining exactly how to break it for Brian, that'd be great.
Consider it done.
Awesome. Yeah, great work on that. Our next one's from Sashi. Tiago, do you want to voice his over?
Sure thing. So he's recorded a video demo. It's in the agenda for the secret detection policies. You can now create an execution policy for secret detection, and it works for both schedule pipelines and regular pipelines. So if you create a policy that executes there, when you run a pipeline, you have a job for that. And if you want to do the historical scan, you do the schedule one, and then you'll do a historical scan. And the video shows all that. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And Zamir, you didn't put your items in here, but I know you've released a lot of things in production as well with the vulnerability check. So we've had a lot of good stuff coming out lately. I feel like we've been working for several milestones toward this, and we're finally getting to this point of releasing a lot of it. So great.
Cashing it in.
Yep, cashing it in.
Yeah, I was hoping to put together something as soon as I finish the last issue, but I need to wait a little bit more before I can do implement the last issue.
So for planning breakdown today, I wanted to talk about adding support for SAST scan execution policies. Are there any questions on that one? Do we need to do a quick walkthrough of it? Did everyone here have a chance to take a quick look at that before the call?
I forgot to mark it with a caret, but I did look into it and I've asked my questions. I don't think I have any more questions for planning breakdown. Just want to hear what Alexander and the other engineers have to say.
Okay. Yeah, so this one, probably this is almost identical to what we did for secret detection. The biggest difference is that we're adding in the SAST excluded analyzers setting. So whereas with DAST, we identified a specific DAST profile that we were using. There isn't such a thing right now as a SAST profile. So at least right now, we're just adding support for that one specific variable, which is probably one of the easier variables to add support for and one of the most useful. So we're trying to capture the low-hanging fruit there. That's probably the most complex thing out of all of it. Otherwise, it should be really similar to what we did for secret detection.
And there was the question on whether this needed front-end work, right?
Yeah, I don't think it does, but Alexander, I don't know if that extra variable makes a difference, or I don't know how it's all coded up. Maybe somewhere in the sidebar. I don't know if you need to code it up there to show that it has an action of running a SAST scan.
Ooh, that's a great point. I will need to add that. It will be very minimal amounts of work. And just so I understand, make sure I understand fully. Basically, the scan will look, as you mentioned, it's very similar to secret detection. So I'm looking at the docs here for the scan policies. Here is what a scan for secret detection looks like. But you're saying instead of secret detection here, it's going to say SAST analyzers.
Just SAST. Yep.
SAST. Okay. Yeah,
and
there will.
The only other difference is, so like under DAST, you have support there for scanner profile and site profile. You would have support for one variable under a SAST scan called, excluded analyzers or something like that. We'll figure out the exact name.
Got it. Thank you. Yes, there will be a minimal amount of front end work for, as you mentioned, the drawer on the side to display that the action is SAST, but not very much at all.
Okay. Are there any concerns with moving this to refinement then?
No, I haven't picked a DRI for backend. If Brian, if you want it, otherwise I'll ask Tashi or Maciej. We'll have a look. We'll take it offline.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take it.
Oh, I'm sure you can, but do you want it?
Sure.
All right.
All right. I will move that to refinement then. Lindsay, you've got our next topic.
Yeah, this came up a few weeks ago, and it's just around scheduling, and I know that it's kind of late for folks. I think for Brian, it's after 5, and Zamir, it looks like it's dark wherever you are. Just a suggestion to see if we wanted to move this forward by an hour, because I know Tiago wakes up with the sun.
It's only dark there because he lives in Canada. It's always dark there.
Always dark there. But I mean, Zamir, am I right? Is it 6 or 5 for you right now?
It's like 6:10. It's okay. If it's better for everybody, that's okay.
Well, this is my point, is that the only person it's impacting is Tiago, and I want him to have the ability to go to meetings, but I know he wakes up early. So if it was easier for folks that, maybe want to eat dinner, or Sam, I think it's 4 for you right now, correct?
Yep, it's 4
Alexander.
PM, so it's still within my working hours.
So I was just looking at the retrospective schedules, and we ended up canceling the one that was happening in the APAC time zone because frankly, I didn't think anyone was going to attend it because everyone is in the earlier part of the day. Thank you. I mean, this makes everything so clear to me. So, I mean, everything is sort of east leaning. If we wanted to move this forward an hour, I just wanted to suggest it if it was easier for folks. That's all.
Yeah, the 3 p.m. time would be a lot better for me. This is like I'm trying to mentally configure the time zone in my head. Like it's an hour and a half earlier, right?
What do you mean? An hour and a
Oh,
half earlier.
the new meeting time. How much earlier is
I
it
was
from
suggesting an
the current
hour.
time? Okay. Yeah, that time would be better for me because right now it is at 5 o'clock my time, and I'm usually done working by then.
Any objections to moving? Oh, go ahead, Tiago. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it doesn't make a difference to Sashi because it will either be 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. for him, so it doesn't matter.
Hard or hard.
And if you move it earlier, I know sometimes Alan works, you know, non-standard hours, so he's ends up working really late his time. Does anyone know if there's a chance we would get him if we moved it an hour earlier? When does he usually wrap up his day?
Sometimes he starts as early as 5 a.m. and then takes a long break, and then he works until like 10 p.m.
Okay, so an hour might not be quite enough if he wraps his day up at 10 p.m. his time, but that's okay. We weren't getting him anyway at this time.
No, it's right now it's midnight, and yeah, we might move it to 11 p.m. maybe, but I don't think so.
Okay.
All right. I'm just reminded that all meetings are optional. I figured we've just had this one on the calendar for long enough that we should revisit and make sure that it's as easy as possible for everyone. Sam and Tiago, I think you guys have a one-on-one scheduled right before this. Would you be willing to move it around or switch it if we pull this back by an hour or forward by an hour? I mean,
Don't know what's in it for me.
Yeah, we
talk
can
to
find
Sam
another
still.
time for
All
that.
right, cool. I'll go ahead and make the
That is a
update to
good
the Protect
reminder about
calendar.
meetings.
And I'm updating the time zone IO page to make this easier.
I'm also not on that page.
Yeah, I'm adding you and removing Jan and replacing Annabelle.
I am also not on that page.
I'm not doing anything
wow,
about
so
you.
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, you can ask Lindsay to do yours.
It's
Oh wow, you should not do this, Thiago.
I think we have a link to that page in our Slack channel, right? Like in the topic or something in the description.
We do.
All right, well, yeah, I think it's all thumbs up. So Tiago, you're the one who's impacted by that change the most. If that ends up being too early for you, let us know. But otherwise, yeah, I said, let's go for it. Let's move it up an hour.
I've pasted the URL in the chat. I think it's easier than me adding everyone.
All right, so our last, are we good on that one then?
Yeah, I just updated the Protect calendar. So anyone who has themselves as an invitee should get an update. And if you're looking at the Protect calendar, it should show 1 hour earlier starting. I probably just updated today. I just updated today's instance too. So starting today, that'll be confusing.
All right, so then our last item, Zamir brought something up, and I think we've mostly handled it at this point, but parts of the conversation I felt like would be useful just to touch on in this group discussion. Zamir, do you want to share some of the questions you had earlier today?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna work in this new scan security policy, not scan, but security policy that's related to the MR approvals. And what happens is that it forced me to go through all that we have done for this policy page and just evaluate where we are at and why the things are as they are. So then the first thing that came out was that I was surprised that I was not surprised. I was considering what was the reason that we had the EML mode and the UI mode. And the reason was because network policies, as we had the Cilium network policies, it's by default the EML mode. So then we just try to make it familiar and easier for people that are working with the network policies to just copy and paste, and we still support that thing. So then right now I'm working something, we are getting a feature from that's right now it's under project settings, MR approval, and it has a very basic UI. So the idea is that we are going to get this UI and move over to the policy. So I was wondering, why do we have a ML mode for that then? Because right now everything is in the DB level. The way that you store the information and also the way that you compare this information with the merge request rules. And then I start this conversation with Sam through the issue and also in the agenda here. And then I think if we could summarize everything, like there is a big thing, there's a big split in the users base in terms of preference, in terms of the EML mode and the UI mode. And also there is a already existing structure handling the project to EML data that we built for the scan. That's it, I think.
Yeah, that's a great summary. I mean, we found that when we first did the testing, and I've continued to see that as I've shared, the prototype that we've got and talked about this feature with customers. It's almost like a Mac versus Windows thing is the analogy I shared with Samir. Everyone has a very, very strong opinion, and they're either on one side of the fence or the other, where they say, I love what you have here. I would never touch that YAML mode thing. I'm only going to use the rule mode. That makes sense to me. Or they'll say the exact opposite. It's very polarizing, right? Where they say, this is great. I would use the rule mode only as long as I had to figure it out. And then I would never touch it again. I would only work in YAML. I want to live in YAML. Like security as code makes perfect sense to me. And so it's just really interesting to see those opinions. But, of course, as we're rolling this out for a first MVC, we don't have support for both of those modes all the time. At least we don't right now for scan execution policies. But by making that choice, we're alienating about half of our customer base because we don't have that other mode available. So that's why we want to take that time to come back in and support both modes in the long run, is because there are such strong opinions about it. It would be different if it was, 90% preferred one, or if it wasn't as strongly held of an opinion.
Yeah, I have a feeling we will have more discussions around this topic, especially Zamir raised his second point there is pretty good about calls to Gitly. That was already raised by maintainers when we first implemented it, and we had to put a limitation on how we changed the format of the files, so it wouldn't search for files. We just go to one file, so you can only pick one name, and the amount of calls you make to that, it can be slow as well. And we could always store YAML in the database, right? You can model that in the database and store it, but you still lose everything you have right now in terms of approvals and visibility. So it's a tough call. It's not easy either way.
Yeah, one good thing about that.
Go ahead.
One good thing about that is that we have everything on the project level now, and basically we have the relationship between the project and the security project. As we go forward, moving to the group level, then this relationship wouldn't be too crazy. If we have everything in the DB, then migrating this to the group level, it would be way more complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw your face when I was saying.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. In fact, we just did the planning breakdown for supporting SAST policies, but our very next priority in that list is moving this to the group and to the workspace level. So that's coming up really fast. That's the next thing that we're going to start preparing for development. And yeah, it's nice to have that flexibility with the design that we have now. there are a lot of benefits for the design we have now, but eventually we do want to make it a little bit more performant. All right, I think that's everything we've got for today. Zamir, did you have anything else to add to this point, or anyone else?
No, I'm good.
All right, thanks. Have a good week, everyone.
My friend.